I think it's recording.
Word.
I'm actually opening for you on Sunday.
Oh, fuck yeah, man.
And I've been on a couple tours recently, and one thing that, like, always sucks, I don't know if you have any advice or hacks, but food sucks on the road.
Yeah, it does. Especially if you're on a budget, which most bands are, and I've been most of my touring life.
Mm-hmm.
The best I have ever eaten consistently on the road is when Bazan band was sort of active, and we had it was my van. I had a pantry built in the back. I built a pantry in the back with, and there were 3 or 4 different configurations over the years that we were using it. And the bass player, Andy, or one of the other guys in the band, Andy Fitz, he is a brilliant cook. And so we'd just go to grocery stores and get the ingredients and basically cook everything ourselves on camp stove or whatever.
Sweet.
So the pantry included cooler, camp stove, pots and pans and dishes that we needed. And I think a rice cooker on one trip came in handy, a crock pot on a winter tour that we did. And on that tour, Andy, we would, especially on longer, 4+ hour drives, we'd get in there in the morning, and it was a little dangerous, but he would sit in the back with a cutting board and a knife and just, like, populate the crock pot that was sitting next to him. And then we had a power inverter, and so we'd put it, once he got it all loaded up with the ingredients, we'd put it in between the driver and the passenger seat, plugged into the power inverter, and it would just cook all day.
Yeah, I bet it would make the van smell awesome.
Oh, dude, by the time we got to the show, it was insane. It smelled so ridiculous for like 2 hours before we got there, and we're all just like starving, not eating, like, because we're saving ourselves for marriage, just in a couple of hours. And then the routine was really great. It maybe happened like 6 times. Maybe 10 times this little routine happened where the crock pot would come into the club as a part of the load-in and get plugged in behind the drummer somewhere on stage to keep it going. And then once sound check was over, Andy would be allowed to peel off and not get his shit put up his gear and stuff. One of us would take that for him, and he'd just say, look, green room in 15 minutes there'll be this and rice and whatever else. And it was just amazing. So that was the best that I think that we ever ate consistently.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. I've heard of people doing the, like, smoothie machines.
Ooh.
Bullet.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that. That sounds great. That would be amazing. I mean, definitely what I would say to bands is if there's somebody who can be responsible for these items, a cooler with an easy drain spigot on the front, like that's that has that. There's a couple of so what I'm about to say is a recipe for disaster unless cooler maintenance is really someone's priority on the trip, because you'll waste a lot of food getting it wet. I built these little baskets out of plastic containers, two ones that I found that were different ones that fit side by side in this cooler that we had. And I drilled, and I put this is so dumb, but I modified a plastic, those shelves in like whatever, like in a kitchen, and there's those metal culinary shelves.
Kind of like the wire with.
Yeah, the wire shelves.
Yeah.
I just took one of those shelves and I cut it so that it fit in the bottom of that thing, and then I set those containers on top of it, and I had drilled holes in the bottom of those containers so that because I needed a way to clean the thing out and to pull basically all of the food out of there at any given time without having to just like one by one set it on the curb somewhere. So I could pull it out in two big containers. The point being, cooler maintenance is really important if you're going to try to do that. But if you can do that, it is the best, because you can have, fruits and vegetables and hummus and, sandwich stuff if you're into that, which I definitely am. And,
definitely.
Yeah, cooler in the grocery store, but it really does take an extra probably hour a day at the beginning if you really calculate all the time that you're spending doing stuff. But it's really worth it in the end. There's less ambiguity, or there's less anxiety about wondering where your next ethical and healthy and nourishing meal is going to come from.
Exactly.
Because that's the big part of it too. If you care about food ethics at all, it is a really difficult thing to achieve. And money, and trying to do all of that on a budget. The cooler grocery store situation really is the way to do it. But it does require more work. It requires planning.
Have you found that with all the living room shows that I don't know how they all go. I actually saw you in Lynchburg last year.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like the living room thing? Maybe how does it relate to? Because we're playing a venue on Sunday. Do you prefer one or the other? And I don't know. Do you play differently?
I feel like I play differently in every room to some degree. You know what I mean? And in every PA, it just how I hear myself reflected back either just off the walls or from my own little janky rig that I put together for a house show here or there, or from the PA bouncing off the back walls of a club if the monitors are super quiet, or from the monitors. I just play different every no matter how I hear myself. So there are differences there.
So I think when I saw you actually, it was you and a bass player, and
Yuki. We had a little PA probably.
You brought your own. Which I thought was kind of cool, because then you you kind of have a little bit of control.
Yeah, you have all of the control. Whether or not you know totally what to do with it is a different story. But but it's a project that you can sort of get consistent at over time. That's one of the reasons why I did that. House shows, so logistically they're really different, and so that is a different. Preparing for them is really different. Because like in the house show context, I had that PA that we put together. We had that same PA every night. That's not a common experience for a band on tour. Having the same sound source as the primary thing. Like your amp is the same, but your vocal never sounds the same. And so for your vocal to sound the same night after night is really a neat thing, because you're able to develop consistency in what you can expect from it and what you're getting back. And you become, I don't know, it's funner. On a tour that way, whereas if you're playing clubs every night, you're just hit with something different, and maybe 50% of it is great, but it's great that you're only really fully used to by the middle of the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, one thing I've realized recently is most places now just throw this massive wash of reverb. They start with a ton of reverb.
Right.
I feel like. Whereas I used to have to ask hey, a little bit of slap back, a little bit of reverb would be cool. Now I feel like I'm asking for people to cut back on the reverb.
And that goes cyclically too. In the 90s, that was way more common. And then there was a generation of sound people who were reacting to that, having been in a band or two.
It was more common to ask for reverb?
No, it was more common for people to put reverb on your vocal without you asking them to, or and further to just assume that they understood the aesthetic of your band before
Right.
before you had played a full song all the way through, much less 3 or 4.
Yeah.
As evidenced by, like, I was in bands playing bass where the singing wasn't like a vocal band. It was, the singing was sort of equal with the guitar playing kind of thing. And so we just had to fight with people to not have, he'd be like, turn your guitar down, I can't get the vocal loud enough in the mix. And the guitar player who's the boss would be like, dude, the vocal is fully loud enough. You don't need to get it any louder. And he's like, I'd really love to, though, so I'd love you to turn your guitar down. And it's just like, Jesus, man. No, none of that is happening.
Yeah.
This is how my band sounds, and I like it. So that was a lot more common in the 90s. And then in my experience, I'm sure every, depending on where you kind of travel, the circles you travel in could be different. But, and then it seemed like people started to get some sense because maybe, like I say, they were a generation of sound guys who had been in bands reacting to that sort of hubris and were chilled out. I haven't, thankfully, experienced the thing that you're mentioning recently, but I didn't really play that many club shows this year yet. So
Right. So I guess along with with sounds and I guess maybe how things have changed since the 90s. So the first record that I really got into was "It's Hard to Find a Friend." And,
right on, man.
I love the drum sounds on that.
Thanks so much.
A whole lot. And but then I was listening to Care. I mean, it's totally different. I was just wondering maybe how your recording process has changed, or maybe stayed the same in some ways. Like, do you record your own stuff, or do you?
I tend
work with people?
The last couple of things I made, I worked with people at some point in the process, although I tracked a lot of each of the records myself. But yeah, traditionally I've made my own records. The Friend I made by myself with there's a couple of people who helped me play on it. Actually, just one guy played on it, and a couple of buddies came over and ran the tape machine every now and again.
So that was on tape?
That was 1-inch 8-track, yeah.
Nice.
At my house that I lived at. Me and a buddy had some gear separately. I had a 1-inch 8-track, and he had one, and his was better, and so we decided to sell mine. That I would sell mine and put that money into the shared studio, and so that's where I made Friend and Secure, the EP that followed that, and then various things that were that defaulted to me being the maker of the record.
That's sweet.
Different help here and there.
I recorded my first record, well, the one that I just put out actually on 1/4-inch tape in my basement.
Oh, dope. What kind of machine do you have?
A 388, Tascam 388.
Yeah, man, I had one of those for a minute. Those are great. Yeah, I recorded some B-side stuff that came out with a record I made called Curse Your Branches.
That was your first solo record, right?
First solo full length. Yeah, I put out a solo EP before that called Fewer Moving Parts. But yeah, Branches was the first solo full length.
Sweet. So Care is obviously a lot of electronic with.
Yeah.
What kind of program did you use, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it's okay. I use Ableton Live.
Cool.
And the instruments were a mix of hardware and software, synthesizers and samplers, I guess.
Do you have like a little studio in your house?
I have. There's the basement. Used to be a separate legal living space where we had renters from time to time, and so the downstairs bedroom is kind of a small bedroom. Downstairs, I just have my stuff in there. It's
Mhm.
not set up as it is a studio, I guess. It's just my room where all my music shit is, and my computer and my speakers, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's where I made Care and Blanco, and I made Branches down there too, but I was in the living room then. I got to use the big room back then.
You live in Washington?
Yeah, just outside of Seattle.
Okay. Cool. So do you know like Larry Crane and like the tape op people?
Yeah, I know. I've met Larry, and I know Larry and those guys. For years before K-pop, there was no recording magazine that was for people like us. It was all for like pro mixer people, like people in the industry.
You said it was an 1-inch 8-track.
But it's hard to find a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you doing like single mic on the drums, or like how were you usually?
Yeah.
Because I kind of did like single. I kind of like the one mic on the drums, just like a condenser in front of the drum set. I don't know.
Sort of a kick mic, but it was sort of more a front of kit than it was a kick mic, but it was sort of down low. And then I did one that was sort of a snare mic, but I had it pulled off, not really close.
Yeah, the snare has like a really like kind of fat, roomy sound.
Yeah, and then the third mic was in the closet. I put the third mic was a condenser mic, I think, maybe a 414. Yeah, that sounds right. And then sometimes the snare mic was the only one that moved every now and again. One time for a couple of tunes, I put it over my shoulder, like kind of. But the kick mic and the room mic. The room mic might have moved around a little bit too. But yeah, I was basically just had three mics and was trying to get once I got the snare drum sounding how I wanted it in the room, then I was ready to go. But it took me 3 days to get there because the way that I engineered the drums on that, I was trying to get the snare drum sound right. And so I hit the snare and it didn't sound right, and I tuned it up and it didn't sound right. And so then I just called a buddy and said, hey, can I borrow your snare drum? And then I went and got their snare drum. Yeah. And then did the same thing, hit it, didn't sound right, played it or whatever, then tuned it up in various ways and couldn't get it to sound right. And so then I call another buddy and then say, hey, can I borrow your snare drum? And then I go get their snare drum and then come back. And then I think the third one, I think it was a Gretsch, maybe a brass. But the third one, I set it in there, and I just started playing it, and immediately I knew this is what I want. And so the miking was pretty simple. There was no effects on the drums. It was just tape compression, and maybe a little bit of distortion from the mic pre. Maybe we overloaded it every now and again.
So what do you mean you put a mic in the closet?
Yeah, I just put a mic in the closet. I wanted a room sound. I wanted a mic that sounded far away from the drums, but it was kind of a small room, so I kind of put it around the corner in the closet so that it would pick up, a sound that was a little further away sounding, and it, that often doesn't work, but in that situation, I was able to get the phase right. I didn't really know about phase all that much back then, but now I realize what I was doing was I was moving the mics around subtly every now and again to try to, because the phase just didn't sound right. And so getting everything in phase, it's easier with 3 mics than it is with 10, and it's easier, like you're saying, with 1 mic. There's nothing to get into phase. It's just the sound, So that's I definitely tend toward the idea of you make it sound how you want it in the room, and then try to capture it minimally. Although I've done other ways of doing it in the past too, but that's my favorite. That's the thing I do the most, and was my first impulse.
That's cool. So are you gonna be? I saw on the KEXP performance that you're using what looked like a sampler for most of your set. Are you gonna be playing like strictly electronically on Sunday, or are you gonna have the guitar too?
No, I'm only playing guitar on Sunday.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. The that particular rig on the KEXP thing, I didn't use much more on that tour. I just kind of phased it out. Partly it was really cumbersome. Partly it just it required more time to get it where I wanted it because I was having to think about it too much and not
Right.
being able to just play music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm working on a different iteration of that is not it's more based on playing synths and not playing pads, samples from pads.
Right.
But even that's taking time and is too cumbersome to do a fly out show that way.
So I guess you're
much.
flying in?
Yeah, I'm flying in. I have 2 shows in Virginia this weekend. I think one maybe down in Norfolk.
Yeah, I think so. I think I saw that.
Yeah. And then one in Richmond there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'll just be playing guitar.
Sweet. And it's just gonna be you, right?
Yeah.
The solo.
Yes. Yeah.
So are you gonna play songs from Care?
Yeah, absolutely.
Music? That's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, on the tour that I just got back from a couple weeks ago, it was all acoustic, and I played. Did I play every song from Care? I think I did. Not every night, but at some point during the tour, I played all the songs, and every night I played at least like 6 of them.
Yeah. And then are you gonna? Do you think you'll play some Pedro songs and some headphone songs too?
Yeah, I usually do play a Pedro song. I don't have anything against the catalog of Pedro and Headphones. Not all of the songs do I like, and so therefore I won't play all of them. But it's the same goes for Bazan stuff too. There's plenty of Bazan songs that I'm just not into playing. But yeah, there's so many songs now in the Bazan side that it's sometimes I'm not able to include a headphone song, or sometimes it'll be like one Pedro song. Other times there's 3 or 4, but on this tour it's been, I think I played a headphone song most nights. Well, no, I guess that's not true. And then I definitely played a Pedro song every night in one way or another. But it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of care.
To be like straight up, like I think that the record really kind of turned me on like when I hit Sparkling Water.
Oh, word, man, that's awesome.
And then I think the whole rest of it was just like, I don't know if it just took me the first couple songs to like really get there, but like that's when it started to like really hit for me.
Yeah, the first 3 songs are a little all over I mean, it's not in a necessarily good or bad way, I guess, but they move. It moves around energy wise a bit, and then I think that when track 4 hits, it's sort of that's the average of the record, and it's I don't know, maybe my favorite mood in certain ways on the record. But that's cool.
It had like a dance quality too. Like after that song, I felt like this kind of like slow like dance groove that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's super cool. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Do you dance in your studio when you're making music?
I have started to recently for the first time. Not a ton, but I just find myself doing that in a way that I've never done or known myself to do or have been known to do. But yeah, I'm not a dancer, but I might be evolving into one, because I just particularly I'm picturing when I was making the third track, Disappearing Ink. I'm just moving,
Yeah, that's sweet. I won't keep you too much longer, but when I saw you in Lynchburg, you did like a Q&A.
Yeah, like last year I definitely did it, maybe a normal amount, up through the Christmas tour, and then the Christmas tour and this one I've kind of, I don't know, I've backed away from it just a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places to go that are really negative at this point in our culture, and I don't have a good guard against it.
Yeah. Do you mean just like people like saying like mean shit, or like people?
No, like if people ask questions that skew toward politics or religion at all, I really don't have anything nice to say about that.
I don't know if I guess you probably know this, but like there's a really Christian college in Lynchburg.
Oh, fuck yeah, of course.
And
yeah.
I don't know if you remember this,
Star.
but one person was like, totally Death Star. One person was like, what's different about playing in Lynchburg than like playing in Richmond? I remember you said, you're like, nobody asked me about God in Richmond. So I thought that was funny. Cause I live in Richmond, and I didn't even realize it till I got up there. I was like, oh shit, this is like a really Christian town.
Yeah, and like, I kind of knew that when we booked the show there, because I had been through there. I had played nearby, at a nearby college, or I was passing through on a tour on a morning off or something, and I just the vibe in the Starbucks, the 3 or 4 conversations that sort of wafted my way, I was just like, I got to play this town. This is a hotbed for, Christian culture, which means that there are some people who are here that feel really alienated, who have come up in this thing and are here and participating, that just can't, that are having a hard time dealing,
Yeah.
And need to feel a little less crazy and a little less alone. And so that's why I booked a show there. It was sort of, I just thought, let's do a house show there. I know that there'll be some interest, and maybe I can help,
Yeah.
Which was my thinking. And I'm sure that, not that I'm special, but just anybody who comes in is like, just makes it okay to talk about certain things, or makes it okay to be a certain way just by being there, I feel like can go a long way in a very rigid social structure like that.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Just kind of letting people know they're not alone, and that it's okay to like think a certain way that doesn't go with basically everybody that you're surrounded by.
Yeah, and so if you're living with in a pluralistic culture, that people have strong ideas about stuff, but they kind of will allow for other people to express their views, and know that people are on a continuum and are moving, are growing, or shrinking, unfortunately. And then you can, I don't know, that's just a fucking little tiny bit of humility, would just go such a long way in those situations, for the oppressors. Anywho, Virginia's got it going on.
Yeah, I think Richmond's I've lived here, basically I grew up here, and I've played music here for a long time, and it seems like there's a lot of good music happening, especially in Richmond right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so do you have like a like any memories of playing in Richmond?
I think the first time would have been in 99 or 2000. Maybe it was in 2000 at the university.
VCU?
Yeah, I guess so. Played the National a couple times, opening for different bands. Really loved that place. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that place is cool.
Theater. Played a place called Alley Cats. Had one of the worst venue experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, I used to play at Alley Cats. It's not around anymore. What happened at Alley Cats? That was terrible.
It was a very desperate scene. The moment that we were there, just like everybody involved, especially the main promoter, settler person, were just out of their minds on. It had to be some sort of opiate. I really don't know.
Yeah, I remember. I was pretty young back then, but I remember the owners were kind of. Yeah, they seemed like they were on something.
It was just sketch. It was just sort of like a neglected place run by people who were barely kind of keeping it together personally, you know? And that's word. I mean, people are in odd situations, but it's not really like it's not really a functioning concern at that point.
I did like the room, but
it was neat. It was really neat. Yeah, it was strange. The whole thing. The sound guy was really cool. Really gave a shit. Really tried. Just a second, man. Hey, bud, can you come down and start with your handwriting? Yeah. Yeah, played a bunch of house shows that were fantastic. A couple in a studio, one in a rad place on the east side of 95. I guess that's over. Not too far from Alley Cats.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me, and I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Yeah, man. Me too.
Cool. Well, I hope you have a good flight and everything, and yeah, I'll see you in a few days.
Okay.
All right, man. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.